All right. How's everybody doing out there today, man? This is Andy and Cam back on the attack again. Guys, look, man, we set out to do 4 episodes of this little mini podcast series, man. Me and Andy, I've been so happy and so honored. I had so much fun these last 3 weeks hanging out with Andy, talking marketing. Look, guys, and if you haven't seen those past 3 episodes, guys, go back and check those first 3 episodes out, man. We covered list building, right? We came back and we covered some more list building. You spoke in depth about charities and giveaways and things of that nature, which I thought was, a fantastic episode, man. A great topic. 2 episodes, dude. 3 hours at least, probably, dedicated to list building in our first 2 episodes of this show. We came back and talked about video marketing in episode 3. And today, man, I asked if you could speak on some of your, I was asking you if you could speak on some of your, inspirations for coming up with content ideas, because the fact of the matter is all the list building and all the video marketing and all that stuff, man, it comes down to getting people to care about what you have to say. And only then will they care about what you have to sell. How do you get them to give a crap about what you have to say in this world where there's so much content being dumped on people? How do you get people to care about what you have to say? That's what I wanted to ask you about today, man. So you go ahead, Andy, get into it, man. What do you think?
Well, it's certainly a good question, because we're living at the moment in a world where there's so much content being pushed out there, but I did a Substack post the other day about how we seem to be living in a world of sound bites, and that's what a lot of it seems to be. Meaningless, vague sound bites. They sound quite encouraging and, motivating. Like, you remember the old motivational pictures you used to get on social media? You can do this. You can climb a mountain by focusing on every step first, and it's all great stuff. There's always an element of truth in there, and it's always very, someone could get there and go, oh yeah, that's okay. But we humans we're curious. We love stories as well. That's why that's why Hollywood is worth millions, and people love stories, real stories, false stories, adventures. We're just curious, and we just love adventure, and we love we love to see what other people are doing. We're voyeuristic in nature. So why don't you create posts that, that people can, it piques their curiosity, they can get aligned with, and I just find that a lot of the content at the moment is just pretty bland and vague. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was getting prepared for this episode that we were going to do here, and I wanted to give people some examples of kind of like, from my point of view, what you were talking about right now. When Andy's talking about bland and vague posts, content that is just like, what is this? I don't care about this. Like, it's the same kind of stuff coming up over and over and over again. And I wrote a few down here for you guys. Okay, here's one for you right now. Quote: most capable professionals get stuck at the exact same point, not from a lack of skill, but from treating every decision like it has to be right the first time. That mindset served you well in a career. In your own business, it just keeps you at the starting line, refining a plan nobody's tested yet. Unquote. It's like, it doesn't mean anything, man. It's just like, I don't know, daddy theater or something, like just motivational goobly-gook.
I do love your saying there, daddy theater or whatever it is. You read through so much of it, and it's like they've taken it off the image and they're just using it as text, and it's filler content, isn't it?
Yeah, it's filler content. Here's another one for you guys. Authority compounds when everything you publish points back to the same revelatory argument. What's your ownable idea? I don't know. What's your ownable idea, Andy?
Sure. What's your ownable idea? You see, that There's a great an old friend of mine used to say, and I like what his simplistic attitude is. Why use 14 words to say something when 7 will do? But
Yeah.
if you're going to use 7 words, they've got to make sense. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of these now are getting to the point where, we've got AI summary. So you get an email from someone or an article, and it's like, do you want me to summarize it? And it breaks it down into, and some of it makes it a bit more clear, a bit more, takes away a lot of the fluff and filler. But a lot of the time as well, you end up going, huh? And that's what I think a lot of the Substack posts are. They just seem to be, and obviously I'm not going to say all these people are using AI to write them. I'm sure they're not. But it's a lot of it's just AI summarized, bite-sized sound bites, aren't they? It's just, it's like, you sat there, what was it? Your ownable, what was the last word?
It was it's forgettable, right? It's forgettable. What's your ownable idea?
What's your ownable idea? So basically what they're trying to say is, if I get this right, is it's like, what is it that you do? What is it that love and like, and that you can go out there and tell the world? What is it that you can be the authority on that subject? But to me, there's that we've mentioned in previous podcasts. I called it, was it the repetition? It's the 7 points of contact that you need to make before you can start to influence a voter. You mentioned something similar to do with the movies, and that is, you have to say something multiple times, but and you can do that throughout the day with multiple different posts. But a lot of the time with these posts now, that they're getting so sort of AI summarized and thin, you're not even making that first point of contact, because most people are trying to figure out what it is you've said. It's like, well, what does it mean? It's like, so then it's lost. And as you will know, being in all these years you've been running sort of digital marketing and memberships now, a confused buyer isn't a buyer. If there's no clarification there, if they're confused, you've lost them, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny that you say that, because I always tell people there's a fine line between captivation and confusion. And if you captivate somebody, you're pulling them in, man. They're going to read on. You got a good chance at selling them. If you confuse them, they're gone, dude. They're gone, okay? And there's a fine line between captivation and confusion. But, yeah, these are just, like, preposterous. Like, here's another one for you, Andy. I reread a post from a year ago today. Winced twice, nodded once. The nodding part surprised me more than the wincing did. Okay.
So what was it you winced at, and what did you nod at?
I don't know. It doesn't mean anything. I don't know. I said I wasn't going to talk about AI, but just to your point, to answer, to kind of respond to what you said, yes, I believe this is the kind of stuff that AI generates. It's meant to be perfectly helpful, but it doesn't mean anything. It just doesn't mean a single thing. It's just nonsense. And maybe it is helpful on some vanilla, like you said, a meme where you just take the writing out of the meme and just like post the writing part of the meme. I don't even get a visual, man. If you're gonna feed me this vanilla crap, at least put a picture of a mountain behind it.
Yeah, exactly. It to be fair, a lot of those things that you see on Substack would actually be made better with an image behind them, like you say, a mountain or a beach or something. But I don't know. It just, I mean, I've experimented with AI, like you will probably have played around with. You've gone and said, give me 50 social media posts or Substack posts based on, and I'll probably feed it half a dozen articles of mine, and so it can, come out with stuff, and I'll look at it and I'll read it and I'll go, that's a good point, but I can't publish it as it is, because I end up having to rewrite it and embellish it and then add more to it. Or, I mean, I know my good lady says that I write too much when I'm doing Facebook posts or something. She's like, I just can't do like a couple of sentences. It's very difficult, because it's like going on old Twitter. I could never use Twitter, X as it's now called, Twitter, years ago, because you only had, 240 odd characters at the time. I couldn't get enough words out to say what I wanted to say. Yeah. Because it's fine if you've not got a huge amount to say. Breaking news, fire breaks out in Philadelphia factory. fine. You know, they're headlines. They're not. It's not information. I know you can sell a lot in a headline. You can, you can, as we know with sales letters, you can pull people in with the headline, and you can actually get enough hook in there to get people going, ooh. But it's, you just don't say enough. And we humans we just love stories. We just love to know what other people are doing. We love to see what something was. I mean, the reason why clickbait was so popular, clickbait and click curious, is because we humans, you get sort of an open loop, and it's like, oh, what's that? You need to know more, and we want to sort of learn more. And I just find that a lot of the stuff that we're seeing at the moment on Substack is just not saying anything.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you can be perfectly helpful, and maybe you're going to get a bunch of other people who are trying to be perfectly helpful to like your post. And like, they're just there trying to do the same thing you're there trying to do, trying to create engagement and get other people to follow them and stuff. So no one really cares about what you're actually saying, because you're not really saying anything. You're being perfectly helpful without making any real points, and without like actually, caring about anything that you're saying. It's you're not even saying half of it. You're just getting AI to generate it for you, and you don't care about it. These other people liking it don't care about it. Nobody cares about it. It's just like some kind of like perfectly helpful, logical thing to put out there, and it's preposterous. It's not real, dude. In contrast, I pulled up a couple saved posts that I was reading from you just this last week. Okay, so this is from 7 days ago, guys. You heard what I was just reading. Oh, by the way, before I get further into this. Before Andy and I get further into this, let me just say, I'm Cam from epicconversions.com. I got my man here. Andy, you want to tell him where you're from?
You can find me on andylehman.com. It's probably the best place to go to.
Big Andy from andylehman.com. And Andy has a YouTube channel. And if you guys are interested in seeing the full episodes of this show, okay, and I highly recommend you check it out, get over to youtube.com/@ANDI-LEEMAN. That's youtube.com/@Andy-Lehman. And that's where we got these full episodes housed over there on Andy's YouTube channel. Guys, he's trying to grow a new YouTube channel. Show him some love. Get over there, subscribe to his YouTube channel. Let him know you stopped by and you like this show. Okay. So that being said, okay, cool. Andy, let me pull these up real quick. So look, this is 7 days ago. This is what Andy writes 7 days ago. We live in a world of sound bites where logical thinking has been replaced with easy to say slogans and sentences. Andy's talking exactly what we were talking about. We are currently experiencing a water outage here in our little corner of the world. A burst pipe has left thousands of homes and businesses without running water. People are hitting social media insisting that the water companies should be out delivering bottled water to everyone. Sounds like a great idea in theory, but the logistics and practicality of it are near impossible. I mean, firstly, they're going to need to buy bottled water in bulk from the companies who may not have enough to sell. They don't have bottles themselves to bottle the water or place where they can bottle it. They will need people and trucks to deliver the water to a huge area, and I somehow doubt they will have those sat in a shed waiting to be used for such occasion. So Andy goes on, and he's telling a story about something that's happening in real life in his area. Andy, where did that come from? Because that is a note that you posted on Substack.
I mean, it's just life. I mean, this is the thing that these stories happen, and I think it was basically we were having this water outage. It'd been quite a while. A pipe had broke. We'd been out. Lots of houses weren't getting the water, and I think my good lady said that she's in this local group, and there's people there moaning, saying what they should do this and they should do that and they should do this, and it's like, okay, well, it's not necessarily that possible. And then I thought, well, actually, that would make quite a good post. And a lot of my ideas come from basically what I see or hear around me. It's just that people are interested, and people are interested in other people. I mean, there's a story I use quite a few times, just going slightly off topic, but I use this a couple of times, and I think we we humans, we majority of them, and we're learning more about different people, the different mindsets. So there's like autism and ADHD, and we know that minds think differently now. Some people don't see in images, some people do. But I've been a very visual person, and I see things evolve in my mind, and we see things, and we find stories interesting. And it also is a great way of education. I mean, this is how the Nordic mythology was passed down for years, through story, and we pass on from generation to generation with story. It's just part of who we are. We're wired for story, I believe. And so when you pick up something like that and you think, oh, that's really interesting, and it gets people to think differently. And I always remember this story and I often I've used it a couple just recently, but I used to live in a place called Hemswell. Now, a lot of people don't know Hemswell, but Hemswell in the UK was during the Second World War. There's quite a lot of American air bases around there. It was during the Second World War, it's where we used to bomb Germany from, and so there was this old air base in Hemswell has now become like a trading centre, and there was a garden centre there, and it got broken into one night, and the police went to investigate, and as they were there, they basically realised that they could find out who the burglars were, and they went to the nearest houses, they knocked on the door and arrested these people. And the reason why they arrested them was because it was probably the first snowiest night we'd had for years. They decided to go and break into this garden centre, and they left footprints in the snow. And so on the snowiest night of the year, or the first snowfall of the night, and we kind of have it heavy now and again, but we don't have it superly heavy. So by the time they broke into this place and then ran several streets away back to their home, all the police had to do was just follow the footsteps. And so to me, there was like, whenever I want to talk about a story about a mastermind criminal or some sort of, just create something that I think is going to catch people's attention, make them chuckle, I think of these stories. And then you can like sort of from that point you can make a comparison. I've done it before with people they've ended up in prison for like 3 years for trying to steal like £1,000 from a post office, and you sort of calculate how much their days are now worth. If they stole £1,000, they've been in there for their days worth like 50p, and it's like, well, you'd have probably been better if you'd actually just gone and tried to create an ebook and sell it online. And so these stories are a great way of sort of leading people's minds into this sort of, oh yeah, well, that makes sense. And it just pulls people out of their little world. They want to know, how did these criminals get caught? Why, how can this bloke be worth 50p a day? And it's just, stories are just around us. They're just a great way of trying to sort of pass over specific information. But often, I often think of like, is it Muhammad Ali when he was boxing? He used to do, was it the doper rope or whatever? I can't remember where you get yourself on the ropes and you sort of pretend that you're beaten, and it creates this. It makes your opponent think differently, and so you send them down that path. And I think that with stories, I think when you're writing something, it sends someone down a completely different path, and then you hook them in. You bring that punch back, and they're like, oh, okay, and you've got them.
Exactly. And I love that you talked about that, the rope-a-dope. I got to meet Muhammad Ali when I was a kid, man. I was like in
Did you really?
I was like, let's see, what grade was I in, man? I think I was in like maybe the 6th grade. And he came to my elementary school, and I didn't even know who he was at the time, man. This was a long time ago. I graduated in '94, so this was a long time ago. But yeah, he came to my elementary school. I didn't know who he was at the time, but I got his autograph. He talked to us kids, and I went home and I told my dad, and he didn't believe me. He was like, "What? No, you didn't." But later on, I figured out how big of a superstar he was. But yeah, I didn't know at the time. But that's interesting you say that. Here's the thing. Okay, guys, I just read one of Andy's notes. What you have to understand is when Andy writes something like that, it is not typical, okay? It is not perfectly helpful. And yet it is different. No one else is writing about this water company shut off everybody's water. They should, give bottled water out. Oh, but wait, what you guys don't realize is it's not that simple. Like Andy's story is a perfect analogy for the devil is in the details. It's very easy for me as a marketer to like simplify anything for you and tell you, oh, Making money online is easy. Starting an online business is simple. All you have to do is, pick a niche, build a list, and sell them stuff, right? 3 simple steps. Very easy. I can simplify anything, just like those people simplifying the problem of the water being out. Well, Andy pointed out a critical, piece of that. Like, hey man, it's not as simple as you guys are acting like, okay? There's details to this situation you clearly are not considering. So there's a perfect analogy there. I just made a through line back to marketing from that story Andy told. But the thing is, you guys can do that too. Anybody can do that. Consider how these strange stories can tie back into what you want to talk about and the lessons people can pull from them. The fact of the matter is, Andy's notes are polarizing because they're different. No one else is saying stuff like that. That's what I would say about that. You know what I'm saying, Andy?
I do. I mean, there's a perfect example. I recorded a video the other day. I don't know if I published it yet on Facebook or not, but I saw somebody, and I've seen quite a lot of people do this, and it's like, going back to what we said, it's quite a simplified way of saying that anybody can get started online because you've got Canva is free, you got this is free, this is free. They'll list like 5 or 6 tools and say, well, this is free, you can do this. And so the price of entry, anybody can get started with an online business. It's true, it's correct. There's an element of truth in there. But at the same time, they also forget to take into consideration that there are differences in people. A perfect example of that is that saying you've all got 24 hours in the day. It's what we do with that time that counts. That's perfectly fine, but we have multiple different sort of people on this planet. Yes, we all have, hopefully 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. But there are some people who have an abundance of energy, who can sleep 3 hours, and they can run a marathon for the next 4 days non-stop. And then you've got some people who wake up after 8 hours sleep and they're still groggy. You've got people who've got chronic fatigue syndrome. Can't say it. And so we're all different. And so these sound bites just don't always work. And so going back to that woman who posted something, your Canva's free, you can use school for $9, or you can do this and this, and listing all these 5 tools, or ChatGPT and Claude, I think, was in there. But to me, it's true. But wouldn't it be better if you actually sort of talked about how you were talking to, I mean, obviously you don't want to falsify this, but if you'd read a story or heard about how a 75-year-old man was sat at home bored, decided that he wanted to talk about gardening. So one day he decided to sort of write up an ebook in Google Docs, which is free to use. He used AI, ChatGPT, to sort of do some of the research, and then he'd learned how to use Claude, which was also free. Canva, to create the book itself, and then he published it to Gumroad and blah blah blah, and he made like say 200 sales. That is a story where you'll go, okay, right? So wow, a 75-year-old man has just done that using these tools. That is different to the mind. That it works differently to sort of go in, yeah, that tool's free, that tool's free, that tool's free. I could get started today. It just doesn't compute. It's like, so I suppose it's like background noise, or you just sort of you see it and you just sort of ignore it. It's telling you something that I suppose in some ways whereas the old man story is telling you something that you could do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense, man. The kind of like self-centric story, the story that is really not like, I'm not like telling you what to do. It's not daddy theater. Like, I'm just telling you what has happened for me. Like, I'm giving you my experience on the situation. Okay, so I'll give you guys another one that Andy wrote here. This was like 5 days ago. Okay, 2 opposing truths can exist at the same time. AI can be a wonderful tool. It gives individuals and companies a lot of freedom and allows them to do a lot of work quickly and cheaply. It can also put a lot of people out of work and seriously damage the economy. To choose only the first and completely ignore the latter is either selfish or foolish. What were you thinking when you posted that, Andy? How'd you come up with that?
It's probably after a conversation we had. I don't know. That
doesn't surprise me.
We often talk about it. I think I'd seen some comments on that, but maybe it was something that you said about comments as well. And it's just, I find people very interesting. At the moment, the world seems to be in more turmoil than ever. And it just seems to be that as we get more technologically advanced and we understand more with psychology and echo chambers and all that kind of stuff, it amazes me how very few people actually are able to see both sides of the story, or generally don't care. I don't know. Maybe I was probably just miffed at something, but I mean, we've had this conversation. We both know that we're not stupid. We can see the power of AI. I mean, was it just the other day I was playing around with ChatGPT, just back and forth with an idea, doing a bit of research. It spat 139 pages at me, and it was really, really quick, and some of it was pretty useful. And so I can understand how it is freeing to certain people, but also the fact is we humans have a full responsibility to the species and the planet, and to be completely, I don't know, to be complete AI fanboy, is it, without concerning about what it's going to be to society, I think is either foolish or selfish. And there is some of these people out there, and it's like, because it's like, I don't know, you're praising something to be so fantastic while ignoring how fantastic it is at the same time. Because if you're saying that AI is fantastic because it's taken away you don't need freelance writers, you don't need copywriters, you don't need graphic designers, you don't need this, you don't need that. Wow, it's fantastic. But then that means you're putting out like 5 different people out of work. So if every other company does that, puts another 5 people out, another 5 people out, another 5 people out, eventually there's going to be a point where there's more people out of work than there is who's working. So they're not going to buy your products, and so there'll be no money earned, or there'll be fewer monies earned. The government are going to have to start paying more benefits, and so you've got to be sort of mindful of everything else. And I just decided to write that post because maybe I was a little miffed at all these AI sort of fanboys going on about how wonderful it's going to be. And it's like, well, is it? Do you not really care, or can you not just see that it isn't necessarily going to be that good?
It's funny, as I hear you talking about this and kind of like describing that post, it's interesting to me because there's a through line like to both these notes, right? In both of these notes, what stands out to me is here's someone who has like this respect for like realism, right? It's like there's a dual nature to both of these things. When you're talking about this water company, not handing out people bottled water, you're talking about 2 opposing viewpoints. Well, hey, you guys are ignoring the details, right? And then when you're talking about AI, it's the same thing. Hey, you guys are ignoring the details. Like there's more to this than what you guys are, you guys are running off to be in love with AI, but what about this and this and this, man? You guys are like totally forgetting that stuff, and it's like, so I can tell these are written by the same person, like a real person who has this kind of love for all sides of the equation, right? Like what are the details of this situation, and I think that like that's real, you know what I mean? And like that's not going to attract everybody, right? You're not going to pull in every single person out there, because there's, like I said, there's a lot of people out there who just, they're just wanting to write perfectly helpful, gobbledygook, and they're getting liked and shared by other people who just want to write perfectly useful gobbledygook, and none of it matters. But like what I believe is that like when you write things like that, Andy, I think that you're going to pull in the right people who are actually going to like continue to follow what you have to say because they actually legitimately care. You're not going to pull in people who are like, oh, look, Andy just posted something because he wants to help the little guy. Oh, look at this post he just posted about oh, hey man, it's time to do my part to help the little guy. Post into my comment section if you have less than 100 subscribers. It's not that. You're not going to pull those kind of people in. You're going to pull people in who actually legitimately care about what you have to say, and I think that's more powerful when you want to sell things,
I don't know if it's for years have been sort of within the marketing industry, but you sort of see the marketing things being played out daily, and it amazes me how many people fall into that, and sort of it's, I don't know, those posts that you talked about now, I find them quite funny, quite cringy, and I'm sure that there's probably some help in there. Some people might find other viewers or readers or whatever, but the truth be told is that you get successful on platforms if your algorithm if your algorithm is happy with you, and they get happy with you because you have more engagement. And so the best way to get engagement is to say, hey everybody, I'm looking for a new set of newsletters to read, and post your link below, and everybody does, because obviously you're a big name, and like, oh yeah, we'll get to and it's like you basically helping him get more, or them get more exposure, more links. Chances of them going to read your stuff it's going to be very slim, especially if like 100 people comment, and then even if they do read one of your articles on your Substack or one node, they ain't going to be doing it regularly because they're a content creator. They're too busy. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like everybody rushes. I mean, I don't know. It's like you mentioned this before about AI. Is it making us dumber because we're not thinking? I don't know if it is or not. I just it's just like everybody's probably looking for the easy button, like you say, and they're rushing into things and they're not giving it much time. I mean, I'm not saying, I don't want to be a sort of a pessimist or and realism. Obviously, there's different worlds. How we see the world around us is different to how somebody else sees it, because we see it through our experiences and our likes and interests. I mean, we can argue till the cows come home that I can say that techno music is better than country and western, and someone else can say country and western is better than techno music. Those are opinions, and there's no such thing as right or wrong when it comes to opinions, because they're personal. So he could be right, I could be right, he could be wrong, I could be wrong. Doesn't matter, because they're opinions. And sometimes when things comes to facts, so you can't have alternative facts, or you can't have well, my opinion of that is different, so we'll have to agree to disagree as well. No, because it doesn't take away the fact that's a fact. But some people seem to rushing and to do one other thing, and they seem to be overlooking and ignoring some truth out there. And it's just because some other guy who's got like 10,000 followers on Substack is going to AI and churning out a load of AI generated sound bites doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be right for you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You've got to, because that's the thing, as you mentioned before, comparison is, what do you call it? Is it comparison is the thief of
joy?
Yeah. But it's also
I wish I could take credit for that, Andy. I wish I could take credit for that one, but that was one of my favorite historical figures who said that. It was Theodore Roosevelt who said that. Yeah.
But it's not just a thief of joy; it's a thief of so much stuff. Because I mean, to become a marketer, or to have an online business, you need to learn from other people. But then you have to somehow mentally draw the line that you have to learn, but nothing else. You have to completely forget everything else, because you can't, as there's a sound bite, and they're saying is that you can't compare your day one to somebody else's day 400 or whatever, but you can't compare yourself as well, because each and every one of us has so many different sort of circumstances and all that going on. So you can have a 25-year-old who lives in his parents' basement. Mum cooks food twice a day, washes all the bedding and clothing. He just goes into his room, spends 12 hours, 13 hours working on something. You can be a single parent of 3. One of your children could be autistic. You've probably got ADHD. So you're trying to work on something between the hours of 9 and 12 at night, absolutely tired. You're just not going to have the same results as somebody else. You know what I mean? So you can't compare yourself to other people.
You can't compare yourself to other people, man. There's no point to it. And like lately, just to kind of like add on to what we're talking about here, lately, like I've been trying to kind of like, I've been kind of like you. I've been kind of getting back into the YouTube thing. I've been kind of trying a little bit harder on my YouTube videos and then trying to put out some good content on YouTube. And what I noticed is recently, like the YouTube video that I've posted that has gotten like the most interest, the most engagement, has been one where I was just talking about having a meltdown. I was talking about having like a meltdown. I wasn't like teaching anybody. I did one that I put a lot of work into called like 50 business lessons, and like I was just turning 50. So I said, I'm going to do a video, 50 lessons in what I say, like 5 minutes or something, 50 lessons in 5 minutes or whatever. And I put a lot of time and effort into that freaking video, man. I had a little countdown timer on it, and like I was counting up the numbers, man. I put some graphics on there and stuff. And I was like, man, this video is going to be blowing up, dude. It's going to be sweet. People are going to love this thing. Wrong. That's not what people resonated with, dude. They resonated with the stupid video where I pulled out my camera when I was taking a walk because I was like having a freaking meltdown about this freaking print book newsletter thing I got going on. And I was mad. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be mad and just like take a walk to calm down. I'm going to be mad, take a walk to calm down, and get some content out of it, Andy. I'm going to get some content out of this. So I pulled my camera out and I started recording just how I was feeling. This is how I'm feeling right now, guys.
Yeah.
This is why I'm taking a walk right now. Okay, Andy? I'm taking a walk because of this. I'm mad. That got more interest from people than anything else. So, like, you know, if someone says to me, all right, Cam, how can I put out content that people actually care about, that'll make people want to buy my stuff? I say, hey, man, don't go read, you know, whatever. Don't go read the next marketing book that everyone's telling you to read. Go read, you know, 100 Deadly Skills. Okay. Just flip it open to whatever page and figure out that use older model iPhones or handycams to see infrared light glow beneath target vehicle via camera screen. Okay. Because, you know, inside Delta Force. All right. Go read, you know, Jesse Ventura's 63 documents the government doesn't want you to know about. This crap will get people to care about what you have to say, man. And like, it's the real deal, man. It's true, man. It's true, you know?
See what you're doing there when you said about how your biggest video was you having a meltdown. That is a real story. That is just something that people are curious to know why you're having this meltdown, what the problem is, why are you triggered, what's the solution going to be, or if there is a solution. I mean, I go out for a walk every day and I try to listen to podcasts to do with YouTube. And I tried to listen to something and take something away from it. But there was one day I went for a walk and it was an American woman and she's in her 60s. She's got a YouTube channel doing quite well. And there was one channel, one of her videos I listened to for about 30 minutes. And I didn't learn anything other than she got unfairly laid off and that the American labor laws are pretty poor compared to Britain. But I actually listened to her story and you know, there was nothing there that was beneficially helping me, but I didn't stop because I was curious to know how it all played out and what happened and how it ended and what her ordeal was and how basically she got better from it or how, you know, life's improved from it. It was just a story and I had to sort of listen to it till it ended. And yeah, she, you know, the poor woman, she'd been at this company for quite a few years. Everything was going fine, but the manager above had been replaced with someone else who just didn't like her. And so he started to shift her out. There was no reason. There was nothing wrong there and people didn't want her to go, but she got shifted out. But eventually she started a YouTube channel and everything was good. But I just carried on walking, listening to what she had to say. And it was like, by the time it's finished, I was there. You know, I don't know if I actually learned anything that was beneficial. I just listened to it because I wanted to know why she got fired. What was the reason? And so going back to sort of the content, I just feel that there's too much. I mean, back here in the UK, I don't know if you've been following UK politics, but for the last few years, we've had more prime ministers in the last sort of 10, 15 years than we probably had in like 100. I don't know. It's just, it's like a revolving door of politics over here, in and out, in and out, in and out. But a lot of them, for quite a few years, as they do, you always have like a soundbite or some sort of, you know, they've been strong and stable, you know, get Brexit done, leveling up, and there's just all these sound bites, and they become these sort of cliches and whatever, and everybody's going quoting them. And you know, there was one point I remember a video, some bloke was shouting to the Prime Minister, "Get Brexit done!" And it's like, yeah, so what is Brexit then? How do we get Brexit done? What is it? You ask them their questions, and like, and it's they can't think. And so and I feel like a lot of social media has become that way. It's just become full of these sound bites which sound good, like you say. You know, anybody can start a free an online business because all these tools are free. Yeah, great. Most people know that these days. You know, you have to be really, really living in a rock or even a cave to appreciate the fact that, you know, we have these tools. Most people know them. Well, that's not what's going to sell the story. That's not what's going to sell the product. That's not what's going to draw people in. And I just feel there seems to be so many people are missing the usage of stories. I mean, I posted one last night after watching a drama, and it got my head thinking because I was watching this drama. Basically, the story is there's 3 coppers, and they've just stole, I think it's like 10 million quid from a drug lord. And you know, normally we hate watching bent coppers. You know, they're there to uphold the law. And whenever you watch a drama and it's got like bent copper and it's like, oh, God, you guys are supposed to be better than them and that. But you know, you kind of get annoyed with them. But this story is slightly different because one of the policemen, his brother was killed, or not, he was injured in a car accident. He's in a wheelchair. He needs 24-hour support. He's going to lose his care home. And so another copper, I think he'd been working for the police for years, but the system had failed him. And so you see these policemen who've been working hard to make a good society. They've been battened down. They see these drug lords with all their millions, and you know, they've tried to do good and they're not getting rewarded for it. They're getting beaten down. So they go out and decide they want to take the money back, or, you know, hit them and get better and clean the streets at the same time. And you kind of feel like you're rooting for them. Whereas if they were just policemen who were just greedy, dodgy policemen who wanted to run the drugs network, you'd be like, ugh. Well, they're doing exactly the same thing, but you're rooting for them differently because the story is different. There's a different motive and you're seeing it from a different set of eyes. And it's amazing how the use of words, the use of articles, the use of story and headlines, but how two stories can be basically identical, but you can root for one and not for the other because of the motivation or, you know, what's behind that. And I think most people should be using more of these stories. So I created an article, a post last night on Substack based on watching that drama. And I just thought that was just a good way of getting people to think about story and about psychology and how different stories can have different reactions.
Absolutely. And these are fantastic points. And I wish we had more time to unpack them. Guys, I was telling Andy before the show, I have a meeting I have to get to at 10. So I have to wrap our show up a little bit short today. But I still think we got some useful information out here today. Andy, if you could wrap up something, like if you could just like help people in some way briefly, like what would you tell people out there who was trying to like put content out there that moves the needle and gets people to pay attention to them? What would you tell them?
Don't be afraid to do something different to everybody else. Don't be afraid to take from your life, because basically I've picked up stories when I've been sat in coffee shops. I've been stories people have told me that they've heard while they've been in hairdressers, while you've been on the train, you know, interactions with people. When you flip open your phone, you see news reports. I mean, I shared one the other day about a drug dealer who got arrested after sharing photos of him with all his money. And it's like you've just dropped yourself in it. So real life stories, just look around. Don't be afraid to pick something out, use it as an analogy or an example, or just share it for fun. For the fact is, it's like, wow, did that actually happen? Are these people really that daft or something? Just share those stories and sort of own them. You know, like that first thing you said, you know, what can you own? You know, just sort of own these stories, sort of share interesting stuff.
That's righteous, dude. That is righteous advice. You guys, look, I'm Cam from epicconversions.com. I got my guy, Andy Lehman from andylehman.com. Guys, check out our full episodes. They are on youtube.com/@ANDI-LEEMAN. That is youtube.com/@Andy-Lehman. Check us out on YouTube, guys. We'll catch up with you guys next time. Peace, everybody.
Cheers and thanks and bye-bye.